at Royal Enfield, we try not to do too much. We try and do a few things, but we want to do them exceptionally well. Simple, old school, great fun motorcycles.
This is a bit of a first for Royal Enfield as a company, and it has to have that Royal Enfield character, be a little bit different.
The GT 650 twin and the Interceptor 650 twin that has true highway capability, exciting handling.
So we wanted to create something.
Ride position, it's more like a roadster style. And the GT is an authentic cafe racer, so it's got kind of that more tucked in and leaned over riding position.
Yeah, so we put a lot of time and energy in making sure.
The way somebody rides a motorcycle in the UK and India is very, very different.
The Interceptor makes a great first impression with a clean and classic design that comprises an old-school round headlamp, a well-shaped fuel tank, a long and flat seat, and a smart-looking set of 18-inch spoke trims. As a result of this utter straightforwardness, the big parallel twin engine lurking within the chassis plays a large role in the design. Royal Enfield knows this well, which is why attention has been paid towards ensuring an organic and retro-inspired round theme for the shape of the engine fins, the cam covers, and of course the large cases that reside underneath. All of this is finished well, as are the large chromed exhausts. Now the engine is quite wide, which is why Royal Enfield has installed small metal protectors on either side to prevent the knees from accidentally coming in contact with hot metal. Build quality and finish all round are at very acceptable levels, but there are a few reminders that this bike is meant to be accessible to a large audience. You'll notice that in the simple switchgear and the lack of features like adjustable levers, LED lighting, and in the simple twin pod dials that give you a fuel gauge and 2 trip meters, but miss out on a clock and a gear position indicator. But all of this will make good sense to you when we get to the expected price at the end of this review. Over at the rear of the motorcycle, some may not like the relatively narrow tyre, but the dual exhausts give the Royal Enfield twins solid presence, and you'll want to keep that in mind while filtering through typically close-packed traffic in India. Enfield has taken a deep dive into the modern era, gone are the old push-rod actuated 2-valve setups, and the bike now gets a 4-valve head with a single overhead camshaft. A balancer shaft promises to take care of any refinement issues, and a 6-speed gearbox with a slip assist clutch is another first for the company. But there is a nod to tradition in that this is still an air-cooled engine, although it is aided by an oil cooler that resides neatly between the frame down tubes. You won't find a kickstarter here, but a brief press of the starter button quickly fires up the motor and it erupts into a smooth but deep and offbeat pulse. This is a sound that actually reminds of the latest modern classic Triumphs, and that's because this engine shares a similar 270-degree firing order. Low speed manners are impeccable thanks to very well judged fueling that ensures opening the throttle never feels abrupt or jerky. The slip assist clutch results in smoother downshifts, and the clutch lever weight is reasonable too. What you'll notice almost immediately is that this engine is really smooth. There's a small amount of feeling in the handlebar and pegs, but this is consistent across all speeds, be it 20 km per hour in town or 120 km per hour on the highway. You can't really call them vibrations, but they just serve to remind you that there's a big engine alive between your legs. Once at highway speeds, the all-important 100 kph cruise arrives at just above 4000 rpm, at which point the bike is absolutely relaxed. 120 kph is at an almost equally stress-free 5000 rpm. If you find the space, the Interceptor will show you above 180 km per hour on the clocks. And for those of you interested, Royal Enfield claims a fuel efficiency of 25.5 kpl in the World Motorcycle Test Cycle. Much that you get to the point where you start to want more suspension control and braking performance, as well as grip from the Pirelli Phantom Sports Comp tires. But this arrives when the speeds are at a level that is seriously impressive for a motorcycle like this. A couple of hours into the ride, I started to struggle with the quest to find negatives with this motorcycle. Aside from a seat that starts to feel firm after a while, the one issue I found was that the front end starts to get a little light upwards of 120 km/h. It's not scary or intimidating, and the steering never threatens to go into a tank slapper, but you do feel it happening. How that tendency will pan out on our imperfect roads is something to be seen. Point, we get to the right time to discuss the Continental GT, because the difference between these two bikes largely lies in how they feel to ride. The Conti's pretty cafe racer lines will be really appealing to some, but you could essentially swap the fuel tank, seat, slightly higher set foot pegs, and the clip-on bars to go from the cafe racer back to the Interceptor and vice versa. Aside from those four factors, the only other mechanical differentiator is that the Conti GT runs slightly higher preload settings in the rear suspension, but you can adjust this according to your liking. On the go, the GT puts you in a much more sporty riding position that makes the bike feel more involving on the right kind of roads, but it is more taxing on the back and wrists. What this also does is that it encourages you to ride harder and harder and pushes the chassis into a zone of discomfort faster than you would tend to do with the Interceptor. On the other hand, the Conti's front end feels a little more stable than the Interceptor's at high straight line speeds, probably because of the low leverage generated by its clip-on bars. As you'd expect then, the Conti is the one to have for quick and exciting rides, but the Interceptor can be just as fast when you want it, and it is more of a pleasure to ride at slow speeds and over longer distances. The new Royal Enfield Twins are remarkably enjoyable motorcycles to ride, and they represent a quantum leap forward for the company. But the really exciting news is that both these bikes are expected to go on sale in India soon, and the price is rumored to be below the Rs 3 lakh mark, which is simply sensational. Royal Enfield is about to unleash its twins among the pigeons, and that's going to give a lot of manufacturers, both domestic and international, a lot to think about.
Try and make it do something wrong, so then we've got something to improve.
That's the sort of extremes we go to. It covers all bases of rider level and experience.
The standout part is the chassis is just a really nice.
The biggest challenge for us was developing the motorcycle to meet the performance and quality levels that we wanted to achieve.
The way we've tested all through the validation process, we've torture tested in UK, India. Motorcycles on roads, on test rigs, in part rigs.
And I've been riding a lot.
To make a motorcycle, go around a corner and put a smile on your face, that is something that you can do from an engineering perspective. Make it handle well, make it feel good, make it have good feed.